Okay, people, I'm back, and today I'm going to be covering Le Wheel of Time. Robert Jordan. Okay, it's a big boy, but you expect that from these fantasy books. First, what do we think? What do I think? We. There's no we here. What do I give it? Out of five, I think I got to give it a two and a three. I know. I'm like four videos in, already controversy. But let me explain. Okay. Oh, hold on. Do I think? Let's say you've never read it, you don't know anything about it. You're like me. You've only heard about it a lot because I've heard about it for years. Should you get this book? I would say no. Actually, having gone through three to the fourth, you don't really need this if you're a reader. If you can follow along with stuff. Because he recovers a lot of this in book four. I mean, so that's just. Do I think you need it? No. If you're a mega fan, does this hurt? No. But okay, let's get into it. It's going to be, full of spoilers. I haven't been saying that. I should. It's going to be spoilery from here on out. But why do I give it a 2 and a 3? Well, Robert Jordan does two things in this book. One, when it comes to lore, world building, those ideas are just wonderful. They're absolutely splendid. They leap off the page, and you want to know everything about all of that. What he pairs it with like a CW esque story. Not gonna lie, no offense if you like CW, but it's oh man, it's like cheese-tastic, right? I don't think it's good at all. It's silly. It doesn't make any sense. And this will be a theme that we revisit as I go through what actually happens. And I'm going through it also because it's like if you repieced it together, like if it had a good edit, it'd be even better. It could be even better. It'd be tremendous. But he didn't. I think what happened, honestly, is he had this idea, this world in his head, and he just got real eager beaver to tell that story. And he just didn't know where to start, so he just started biting off pieces, right? Because some stuff. Okay. We start with Rand, this country guy, and his dad, sort of walking a wagon to town, and they see a mysterious rider. And like I said, that rider, the mysteriousness of it, you get a sense of dread. You get a sense of the expanse, how far out in the country they are, the mountains. You really, when he talks about town, when he gets to town, you get a good sense of town. It's really good. So I don't. There's no problems yet. There's a prologue. Your boy don't read prologues. So I just started with chapter one. It is what it is. Okay, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not going back. Right, and we get to town, and there's some more world building. We get into the politics of town. I mean, I really like with the Hobbit. Lord of the Rings does this too, where it's in the Shire, in this the two rivers. They don't. He doesn't concern himself with what's out. Right. It's not like let me go down to my hometown and let's talk about New York. We're not talking about bigger stuff. It's a lot of their concern. The characters are about what's happening in their town, and I love the politics of their small town. It's very realistic. So Everyone's talking about this mysterious writer. I think they're like, let's go. We're gonna send the guys out. We're gonna guard the streets. We're gonna do something about it. Very realistic. I like that part. We get Lady Moraine to show up, and we have a wisdom called, I might get the name wrong, Nynaeve, right? You get a hint of some sort of like, there's some friction between these two, which is a hint of that CW I'm talking about, but we don't get into it yet. Then we have Fane the Peddler. I'm looking at my notes. I now have them propped up because I'm a professional. He's a traveling salesman, sort of like newsmonger. He's going to tell you about what's happening outside your village and all this and that. And this is also an interesting twist, which is what he does a lot with his lore, right? It's not anything specific. You don't go, these people are Asian. Those people are Chinese, ancient Chinese. That's ancient England. He doesn't do that. It's a lot of twists, a lot of strands pulled together. Because in most sort of like, let's say, medieval ancient lores and histories, your business guy, peddlers aren't thought highly of. You know, they always put warriors, dudes who can fight, on a pedestal. But he is a well thought of person. He's given them the news of the world, being about the Dark One, a false dragon. You know, Robert Jordan uses words like the time of madness, and it flows out of these characters very naturally. And as a reader, you'll be very interested in those things. But he's not going to cover those things. We have another character. These are all the they show most of the characters that are going to be in this. Egwene? That's how I'm going to say it. It's spelled weird. Here's the first taste of that CW, because our boy Rand and Egwene sort of like grew up together, and they're one of these like, well, we should get married, That's, everyone in town says it. I like her, she likes me. But what he does, and he does it for all the male characters, essentially. It's Rand, Perrin, Mat. These are the three main ones. He has them where they each say about the other, oh gosh, in their heads, I wish I could talk to girls the way Mat does, or the way Perrin does. He does this, and it's constant. It is constant. And it is, from where you go, when you get from the lore to this sort of sentiment, it's jarring, right? If it were just a YA book, I don't think it'd stand out so much. It's just that lore is like sitting up here, and then the CW mess just gets thrown at, vomited on your leg, and you're like, ew, get it off. Let me talk to me about the, Age of Madness. What about the Dark One? That sounds cool as crap. What is this CW crap? But he does it through the whole book. Books, multiple. It's very extremely annoying. Then we get Thom Merrilin. Merlin? I think it's supposed to look like Merlin, but he adds some letters. It's genius, actually. I love the guy, Thom Merrilin. He's a gleeman, is what they call him. He wears this crazy jacket, and he's like a traveling bard. The fact that this is in this book, this character is stupendous, maybe my favorite character. Very real. You get the sense of him almost instantly. Almost just like he's just there, and you instantly, every word he says is perfect. Unless he gets, bad dialogue to be given. But he is so great. I love the idea of a traveling bard. I've always liked that idea. But to see it in action here, where he'll show up and sing with a great voice to these people who are in the middle of medieval nowhere, tales about these glorious times, these heroic deeds that people do. It's like you can imagine this is how sort of mythology got passed down even in like real life. You know, a bard can show up and sing to you about King Arthur, and now the town, because the town shows up, you know, there's no movies. It's just this guy, and he can juggle. He plays a flute and a harp. He's just very cool, and I love him throughout the book. He's one of the best characters in almost any fantasy book, right, that I've read. He really stands out. What is it? He talks about the Age of Legend. This is what I notes. I put this in the notes. The Age of Legend, Tales of Mosk the Giant and his Lance of Fire. You know, tell me you don't want to know more about that, bro. Give me that book. I want that book more than this than this CW mess. In any case, the talk of the town's this writer. Everyone's sort of worried about it. And they're like, we're going to send watches. We can't just, we're not letting weird ruffians come into town. So they all agree to do that. And Rand and his father, Tam, head back home. They're back on the farm. And again, when it's not this CW mess, and I would have to look at the word specific, but without a lot of words, you just in your mind picture the small farm towns, homestead setting almost. They're out way by themselves. No one else is around. You really get the feeling of those small, not a shed because there's more effort put into it than a shed, but it's a small country home, and it is dark outside. You really do get that they're having dinner. Then the crap just hits the fan, bro. In burst these monsters, right? And they're described kind of like minotaurs, evil, like snouts and horns and hooves, right? They're kind of like evil-looking, cow-headed snout monsters that are super tall, and they just bust in, right? And his father, Tam, who was showing him a heron marked blade, which carries throughout the book, just starts opening up a can, right? He tells his kid, run. Now, this is the part I don't like. It's realistic, right? And if we're being honest, it's realistic, but they didn't fit these stories, and it didn't fit these times. But Rand yeets it out of there. He doesn't take 2 seconds. He doesn't ask a question. He sees these monsters. His dad says run. And he just yeets himself out the back and runs away. I'm like, what? What an absolute chicken. Now, as far as, like I said, a story element, the medieval kind of guy, back in the day, they were in the army at like 14. Right? They were shooting and killing dudes with arrows at like 14 years old. It's kind of crazy to think about, but that's just how it was. So, for Rand to just run doesn't hold for me. Now, let's say Nomocles. This is a different sort of mythology he's building. You said he gives it a twist. Maybe that's one of these twists, and I'll grant you that. Because as a twist, to add this fear into this character in these sort of medieval type times is a great idea. The problem is he doesn't hold to this, right? Subsequent actions that Rand takes don't either show a cowardice or show, like, let's say, shame, right? Like, I shouldn't have left my father, and now I'm going to continue to not be a coward. Like a choice, a cognitive choice in your mind. If he'd have done any of those, I think I'd have been fine with it. But he doesn't. He's just this one instance. He has him be a chicken. But these monsters are terrifying. So I'm like, I don't knock him for running. It's just the writing. So he hears action, He's scampering around in the dark. He's trying to distract the monsters a little bit. Not he didn't commit to this. And somehow his dad gets out of the farmhouse that was getting jumped by all sides by these massive beasts. He gets out alive. I'm telling you, he's full on. I kind of wish he'd have been on this journey. I mean, it'd have been a lot smoother, right? A grown up. Anyways, he gets out and he talks to his son, but he's wounded. He got stuck, right? You in them prison fights, you get shanked. He got shanked. So Rand's like, I can't. We got to get you to town, but you're not going to make it. I got to go back for supplies. So he creeps back. Now, I'll give him credit. He does creep back in for supplies. He's not a complete coward. Which, if we just forget about the cowardice, he works as a character better, I guess. He creeps back inside. He's getting stuff, and one of these Trollocs is still alive. And this is the mysterious case of Narg. Yes. From as far as I can tell, now I haven't read the whole series, so don't jump down my throat or spoil it if you have. I'm only like a ways into the book 4. But Narg starts talking to Rand. Now, when you're reading it, this doesn't seem odd. You're just like, oh, because Narg, you stay. Narg, talk to. Narg, talk. He talks like this, right? Not very intelligent, but you're like, oh man, he's talking. This doesn't happen throughout the rest of the book, or the next book, or the book after that. Apparently, Narg is the only Trolloc who ever talks. Not not only does he talk, he's sneaky with it. He tricks Rand. He's like, if you got to stay and talk. And Rand, for whatever reason, is like, because to go from chicken to running away to talking to like a creature you thought wasn't real, that when it is real, you look at it as terrifying. To go from that to let me just agree to what you say, it's kind of silly. It's a stretch. It doesn't work. In any case, he pretends to he gets his trust, right? He like you stay, talk to big man, and Rand's like, okay, I'll stay and talk to him for whatever reason. Then Narg tries to kill him, and Rand gets him with the sword, and now he's like, I have the He didn't make a point of it, but in your mind, this should be monumental, I guess. It's just weird, and it's one of these things where I get the sense that Robert Jordan was just an eager beaver. He just really wanted to tell this story. Yeah, I'll just muddle through these little issues. It doesn't go back. He doesn't go back to it. In any case, he hauls his dad to town overnight. It's a physical strain. And the town's wrecked. The Trollocs have hit the town too. There are people dead. It's not a pleasant scene. So, thinking you're going to get saved and then to see salvation turn to ash, it's just impactful as a reader. And this is, again, another little thing that Robert Jordan does throughout, is he intercuts the CW with that lore, right? So you're like, I'm tired of this. Oh, that's cool. That sucks. Oh, that's cool. And the little bits keep you going. They're really that good. So he tries to find the wisdom, but Nynaeve can't help his dad. He's too far gone. There's a poison in the blade or something like this. So Rand is really down and he's looking around, and he hears Lady Moraine is actually an Aes Sedai. Aes Sedai are the world's basically mages, right? They're very cool. There's the place they all are, Tar Valon, a city. They're best known there, and they're treated well there. Now, the further out you go from there, the greater the animosity grows, because rumor and myth, people with powers, they're all women, all these kind of themes hang on to these characters, and it works really well. So by the time we get to the Two Rivers, which are outside country folk, They very much mistrust these Aes Sedai. Don't have a problem with that. The problem I have, again, back and forth, is why that mistrust lingers so long. Okay, so this lady Moraine, helps fight off this Trollocs with her magic. And the town sees it. She's not hiding it no more. So now they know she's one of these Aes Sedai. They still like give her the business though, right? Because I'm like, country folk would be like, yeah, you're a weird looking person, but you saved the town. I guess you can hang out. Well, yeah, I've heard bad stuff about mages, but you helped us. I mean, you seem all right. People do that, right? That's a natural reaction. So Rand finds this Aes Sedai, and she can save it. She saves his father, right? So I distrust Aes Sedai. He says this all the time in his stupid head. But she saved my father. I'm like, you would think one would like cancel out the other. He hangs on to this mistrust, just chunks into this through the whole book, essentially. It's the dumbest thing. It actually is the dumbest thing. Her protector is called Lan the Warder. I like this concept where warders are like male protectors for Aes Sedai, but they're not like forced to. There's a very neat relationship between these two. They're very like battle buddies, right? And they call their magic the One Power, right? Men can't use it. If any guy can use it, he could be the dragon that breaks the world. That's sort of the myth that runs throughout. So, Dad's saved. She then talks to Rand and the other boys, Perrin and Mat, and she basically lays out to them that, the Dark One sent these Trollocs to get them specifically, and that no one in town is safe as long as they stay. Right? And by proof, she shows, that house is burnt, but not that one. Who lives there? Perrin. Mat, Rand. It's just very selective. They were very purposeful. They wanted these three kids for some reason that no one knows at this point. So, they're like, sadly, like, we'll leave to save the town. This is sort of a heroic thing. But just as they're trying to leave, the town shows up with like pitchforks. Like, get out of here, Aes Sedai. You brought this evil. It makes no sense. I don't think it makes sense, to be honest. Let's say they're just country bumpkin idiots. Even country bumpkins, you're like, he helped fix my house. I don't care if he's a murderer. They hide people in the country. Anyway, it's aggravating. She goes into this long, like, monologue about the history of the two rivers, which was named Manetheren. That sounds cool as crap. Manetheren sounds cool. In ancient times, the Manetherens banned. She tells you all this in a long, like 2-3 page speech that just ran like she's going to just stand on a soapbox and proclaim to these people. It's jarring, but I also don't care because I'm interested. The people of Manetheren gathered up to hold off an army of Trollocs till help from another town could come and they could fight them off. That help never came. So after like 3 days, they're like, we're in this by ourselves. We're probably going to die. Doesn't matter. Hold off so our people can, escape out the mountains. That's what happens, right? The king, I think his wife, who's an Aes Sedai with magical powers, she comes down and in like a blaze of glory, the army, the king and the queen all die, but their citizens get away in the mountains and then eventually come back, and they're who make up the two river folk. I'm like, that is tremendous. I love the crap out of that. Why she has to have it in an odd monologue is weird. Why she gives the monologue to these townspeople is also weird, because later when she's traveling with these three, they're sort of still antsy about following her. That speech could have like inspired them, right? So just moving that same speech to another part of the book would have worked wonders, but he doesn't do that. This is how it is. This is what I got to go with. It's very annoying. And Egwene just decides to come for reasons, right? She's like, if you are going to see the world, I want to see the world. And he's like, it's dangerous. You shouldn't. Actually, this is close to dialogue. I'm not. I'm not making that crap up. It's cheese. Too much cheese. I don't like it. Okay, so they're out sort of past town, and then they start getting chased by, evil beings. There's something that flies that's like terrorizing them. There's a thing called a Fade, Eyeless, which was the mysterious writer. They're all very terrifying. I get 100% sense that I'm in the country, that is dark, that if we get caught, it ends badly. He's really good at this. And he gets to a ferry, and they get ferried across because these things have trouble swimming or they can't swim. It's a barrier. Anyways, they get across, and Moraine sinks the ferry. Right? So she saves your pappy. She is getting you to escape from Trollocs, who are super evil, even though you thought they were fake. Now they're real enough to send like a squadron, an army after you to kill you. And the Dark One, who's like the evil thing of the whole world that everyone knows, is sending them those things, right? To get you. But when she sinks a ferry, these three are looking at her like, that's shady as all get. I don't trust her. Still with the no trust just because she sank a ferry. It's the dumbest thing. Now, mind you, yes, the ferry is important to the guy. But she pays him and pays him for the ferry. Like, oh, that accident's terrible. But here's something to help you because I'm rich. He, of course, takes the money and just scampers off. It's going to take him a hot second to build a new ferry. But who can't build a ferry if you got money? Just, buy yourself a ferry or buy the wood. But for them to take it like she's doing sadistic, insidious things, and I shouldn't trust her at all, which is what they do, is retarded to me. I don't like it. Then, okay, so they get across the ferry. She uses her magic to just hide their escape, even from across the river. So the evil thing has to fly up and down the river for long stretches to try and track them. And by that time, they've scampered away and they're hidden. So they get to a hiding spot that night after running from, 800 Trollocs who were like 8 feet tall and want to kill you. That night, her and Egwene go off to the side to talk. And Rand is sitting there like, what are the ladies talking about? Oh, I'm jelly. He actually gets jealous. It's CW as all get out. He takes this girl over to the side and then like tries to start her wizard training because lo and behold, she's an Aes Sedai. She has the ability to be an Aes Sedai too. Not everyone's born with it. She got it. She could be super strong. Let me start your training now? In the middle of the night? It's retarded. It doesn't hold water. I don't like it. But that's what he does. Okay, we get to the first town. Barleron? I forget the name of this town. All the towns are great. They really are. That's what I gave it a 2 and a 3. The lore is a 3. The story is a 2. The town's so great. The character of it. But what he does is he goes to the innkeeper. And he describes him as like a fat, jolly, good-hearted man innkeeper. Overworked, stressed as all get out. Alone, that wouldn't be that big a deal. But what my boy Robert Jordan does is he puts one of these innkeepers at every town. They're all described the same. This is like, what is this like? It's like if you were new to China, he'd expect you to go to an innkeeper and he'd hand you like a translate book and some cash and here's where to go get good fishing and you can buy it down, sell your fish down there, get your life started. He's and at every town they're like the waypoint. It's it's kind of cheese, right? On the one hand, but on the other, he commits to it so hard that it just kind of feels like part of how the lore should work, if that makes any sense. He commits to it. He triples down on that crap. Every town essentially has the same fat innkeeper who's nice. And you like them, they're likable. It's just weird, right? Every town does this. And it's here we first get the name of Loghain the False Dragon. This is one of the biggest wastes of a cool name I've ever read. Loghain is a great name. Alright, you get a great name in a book, something should happen. Something should happen. Aragorn. That's cool. Cool crap happens. He's Loghain. The False Dragon is what they call him. Dragon anything is cool. False Dragon? What the crap is that? Who is this guy? What's going to happen? Nothing ends up happening. Nothing at all. Spoiler alert. They do jack squat with him. What's supposed to be is he is a man who can channel. Now, any man who can channel is just like has max level power more than ladies. The ladies have been doing it for like 1,000 years. Kind of like the Force. There's too many Jedi, so the one Sith is super strong. I think it's something like that. A balance thing. It doesn't seem sexist. It feels balanced. But also, I think the ladies call it Sindar or Sidin. Where did I put the name? I don't remember where I put the name. Well, here it is. Sidar. Sidar, and the male half is Sidin, right? So the idea is that the ladies can touch the source of the one power and use it for various things. But how they do it and what they do to do that is like opposite of what the men do. And the men grab this other half of the one power, right? So the ladies can't grab the male half. The males can't grab the lady half. And so there's this separation, right? And that's part of the danger of a man channeling is the ladies can't sort of teach him how to use it. He's this wild element. You don't have things that can start on fire in your house. That's sort of the idea. And the Dark One, I think, tainted the male side. So any guys who you start using the power, well, anyone who uses it too much can go crazy. Like mentally crazy. So crazy with a hand cannon kind of thing. But the ladies have training at Tar Valon that makes them not go crazy. Well, there's no training for the men, and their half is like tainted. Right? So that's what you're supposed to get out of it. That's what's overarching here. But Loghain just sounded so cool, and they hyped him up for a while, and nothing ended up happening with him. It was a massive disappointment. He introduces a character named Min, who can like see your aura and predict the future from your aura kind of thing. Now, and again, the more incongruences. Rand, who just saw like Trollocs come out of myth and attack him, and has an Aes Sedai here who can shoot fireballs from her hand, doesn't want to believe that Min has any kind of prophetic powers. Gosh, that's weird. I'm not going to listen to this. Plus, she's a girl, and I don't know how to talk to girls, so I better leave. It's really dumb. He also has, they all have dreams of the Dark One coming like to, where are you? Come to me. I own this kind of menacing talk. Now, the dreams, while in and of themselves aren't that bad, the way they're presented is not good. We'll end a chapter and start a chapter in a dream, but with no kind of real way to tell. So, like, you get a page and a half in before you're like, I think this is a dream. So, by the time you realize it's a dream, it goes on for like another 3 or 4 pages longer than you think it should. And, like, the first one you read, thinking maybe there's some kind of like symbolic element that plays, not really. I mean, if there is, a very like, they're just imperceivable. There's these minor things, but they just take up so much reading space. You get bored. The reader gets bored. You're like, I want to know what's happening in town. Why am I hearing about this dream that's not real? You know? So he sort of loses you in the dream. In any case, Moraine says, tell me if you dream, because that crap's important. So what do these three do when they dream? They tell the Gleeman, not the lady who saved them like 3 times already. I'm going to tell a traveling bard. And he's like, don't trust those ladies. Don't trust Aes Sedai. Keep your mouth shut. And from his point of view, without him telling you, it feels like good advice from him. Again, you believe him. I love Thom Merrilin. He's a great character, and it sounds reasonable coming from him. And the reason is explained later on. Later on, you realize, they tell you that he had a nephew named Owen who got the ability to channel. So, of course, they call the Aes Sedai. They don't want their nephew, or their guy's son, to go mentally crazy and kill people. And what the Aes Sedai do is they gentle you, which is cutting you off from the one power. And the way it's described is, if you ever touch the one power, cutting it off is worse than like losing a limb. It's such a warmth, such a great, holy, good light that you can never really recover from not having it. So being gentled is as bad as dying. And so what this kid does is, eventually, because he's so depressed, he slits his own throat at like the dinner table. It's very vicious, very sad. And you believe this coming from Thom Merrilin. He's very believable, and his motivations are very pure. Then randomly, Nynaeve shows up. The town wisdom. Yes. And it's like, first, why would a small town's only doctor leave? Second, how'd she cross the river? There was no ferry. Third, like, how did she track them when dude's a warder, right? She tracked them. It took them weeks from the 2 rivers to get to this Balleron town, and boom, she shows up and she finds them. And I'm like, okay, so if a country doctor can find you, how can the Dark One not? It makes no sense. But she shows up inexplicably. Oh yeah, it turns out I'm just a really good tracker. I mean, they never explain it. It's just somehow, because she's from the country, she's a good tracker. Then they have this CW crap where her and Nynaeve just like don't get along for reasons. It's just like, I don't like this, she's this lady in authority, and they're giving themselves the daggers, and all the men are like, oh, I better not go over there. Their ladies are ladies. It's terrible, bro. It's terrible. And there's no reason for it. There is no reason in this book. Now, I know the reason it's in the next book, I think. But there's no reason for it in this book, and yet they do it. And it's fairly consistent. Why'd she show up? She says, I'm here to get them boys back. I'm bringing my youth back. So then, on top of this annoying CW, we got to re-explain to this new character why we all got to leave town. I'm like, I just read this crap. I know why we're leaving. Can we get on with it? Nah, we're going to talk. That's what they do. They have to convince her, and then all of a sudden she's like, all right, I'll go with you. It's so annoying. Um, what is his name? Oh God, the warder. How have I forgot this guy's name? Oh, I'm trash. Lan. I'm trash. I know his name. Lan the warder is called, like in passing, last Lord of the Seven Towers. I'm like, can we get off? Can I turn off this CW show and you take me to the Lords of the Seven Towers? Bro, I want to read that story. That story sounds tremendous. You don't get anything else. Another little taste. They have a battle where they're going to go into battle, right? We got to do a sort of a last stand here. We got cornered. Lan runs in shouting. They all have a war shout. His is for the Seven Towers. He charges in, says for the Seven Towers. Rand and Perrin charge in saying Manetheren. Manetheren. Man, that sounds cool. Matt, for some reason, charges in saying Karai an Kaldazar. Karai an Elisande. Al Elisande. And it's italicized because it's like a different language. It sounds cool. I don't know what Kaldazar is. I don't know what Elisande is. I don't know what Al Elisande is. But I'm all for it. I want buckets of that mess. You don't get any. It's the only time they say it. He doesn't remember why he said it or what it means. They don't explain why he said it. But I want it. I want it. They're not giving it to me. It's very silly. So then, as they're getting cornered, they have to go into a town called Arid Hole, also known as Shadar Logoth. Again, the lore is just so scrumptious. It's just so nice, and it's not enough of it. Now, what Shadar Logoth is a cursed town. Remember that big soliloquy? Yeah. Manetheren was waiting for this town, I think, to come help them. Instead of helping, they're like, why don't we wall ourselves in and just not worry about it? Because that's spooky. Which is what they did. And somehow, that fear and worry just like swirled in on all of these people. So much so that it like created a super stupid evil area. Just horrendously evil, but it's bound to that spot. The whole city is in ruins when they're in there. It's so evil that the Fade and the Trollocs don't want to walk in. Other evil don't want to deal with this evil. That's how evil it is. Great lore building. But now they're in this cursed city, because that's a way to lose the Trollocs that are chasing them. Who wants to die to Trollocs? Now, and she says, alright, it's super evil in here. Don't touch anything. That's not difficult, right? What do you think happens? What's some CW thing? What's some dumb CW thing that's going to happen in this crap? What do you think? That's right. These three idiots unload all their bags and they're chilling out in the spot, and then they're like, "Bro, let's go explore." Like, why? Why? Who explores a haunted town? Why? That's what they do. Matt, Perrin, and Rand, your boy Rand, they go trouncing off to have a look at the cursed town. And, they meet a weird guy. Again, it's almost like the best version of a ghost I've heard. He's just so offsetting, right? And this guy's like, "Can you help me move my stuff?" And they're like, "Sure, we're helpful farm boys." It's the dumbest thing. It's the dumbest. In any case, it goes evil and tries to kill him. But Matt, pilfers a dagger with a ruby in the handle. And he just steals it, and he's like, "Oh, it's pretty. I get that it's like sort of like corrupting them, which is what it ends up doing. Sort of like sucking the life out of them, corrupting them horribly. Some kind of weird kind of way. That part's cool. I'll take that part. But to have them wander off when it's clearly haunted is the dumbest thing. And of course, they get separated. This evil of town is just like gonna try and like kill them. It's some kind of like a black mist looking thing, and there's nothing that even the Aes Sedai can do. Moraine can't do anything to this, so they have to split up. And the groups we're left with, 'cause some of them end up in the river, some end up here and there. The groups we're left with are Perrin and Egwene, Mat, Rand, and the Gleeman, and the Warder, the Wizard, and Nynaeve, who doesn't like her. I don't like that girl. So stupid. Okay, and these sort of trailing stories are kind of stupid too, but again interesting because of the lore. Mat, Rand, and the Gleeman end up on a boat. They're chased by Trollocs onto a boat. The boat takes off. You get a good idea of the captain's like a sailor, right? He's not just a river captain. It's 106 in Texas. Give me a break. He's not just like a river captain. It's like all the waters. He'll go in any kind of water and talk about sea folk and the way he talks. It's great lore. It's great lore. I love it. But all the other ones do is they just like learn to juggle, and play a flute. They sit on the boat. Nothing much happens till they get off the boat, right? Egwene and Perrin end up in the full-on wilderness, not knowing what to do, and they meet like a wolf man, not like a werewolf, but like a guy who can, like a wilderness man with yellow eyes who can talk to wolves. And lo and behold, Perrin's one of these wolf men. I know. It works by the fourth book. But it's just so stupid. The idea of it's cool. Because, apparently the wolves are like the counter to the Fae. They can, like, just eat a Fae alive. Like Pokemon, where, like, fire's good against leaf. It's kind of like that. But this guy literally just runs on all fours, hangs out with wolves. He's kind of cool. But the connection's stupid. Then they end up meeting these traveling people who go by the way of the leaf. These are pure pacifists now. Again, I'll say it a lot. It's great lore. I like the idea of these people. What happened to them is before the breaking of the world, they knew some song that's, peace, to bring them peace, or whatever it is that the fulfillment, whatever it was. They knew this song in the Age of Legends, and when the world broke, they lost the song. So they group up, say, we're not going to kill anybody. To defend themselves, they use big dogs to sort of defend themselves, but that or run, right? They're like, we're pacifists. Do you know the song? They're walking all over the world, asking everyone if they know the song. It's beautiful. That's a beautiful nugget of lore. And Egwene and Perrin end up with these people for a while. Very cool. The Warder, Moraine, and Nynaeve just sort of make it to town. They're adults. They know what to do. They make it to Whitebridge. More lore. Whitebridge is a town built around like just massive. And the way he describes it, it's like lace, right? A bridge made of lace, white lace. It's a huge, thin bridge made in the world, made in the Age of Legends. There's these things that exist from past times that are just beyond how anyone can work it. and they built a town around this. It's very cool. It's very cool. So what ends up happening to Egwene and Perrin is, what are they called? Children of the Light show up. Hold on. Yeah, the Children of the Light, the White Cloaks. They're like knights that dress in sort of white. They're like the Spanish Inquisition. They are pure. They're zealots. The zealots for the light, who just see danger, dark friends, and evil. Dark friends are like the people who bind themselves to, evil. Everywhere. They just see it. Anyone weird, anyone fishy, you Aes Sedai are too close to using magic. That's fishy. They'll kill anyone, everyone. They're just this building threat, right? They have a little army that travels around in little packs. Well, one of these packs comes up to the Way of the Leaf people, and the wolf guy's like, we got to get out of here. They end up leaving, right? They're getting chased. It might be just evil chasing them. I forget. I didn't write it down. Forgive me. In any case, they end up in a zone. A zone where the evil won't go. But these white cloaks do go in there. And Perrin attacks some of them. He kills like 2 of them. Then they all get captured. So it's Egwene and Perrin getting interrogated by these people. Wolf guy takes off. Never see him again. Just like that. They're getting interrogated like brutally. They'll kick ladies in the chest. Punch, they don't care. And it's very impassionate, where they're not like sadistic. They're not getting off on it. At least that's how he describes it. I mean, who can torture people and not be a little sadistic? That's how he introduces the White Cloaks. Even Moraine should be scared of them. If something went down, they would try and kill her. So it's an element in the story. It's very cool. Rand, Mat, and the Gleeman get off the boat, go to a town. In that town, they get attacked by a Fade. Now, your boy, the Gleeman, sacrifices himself to take this thing out, and the boys run. Again, more cowardice. It just comes, I don't like it. It comes and goes. But then the other annoying part, the CW part. These idiots are making their way across the country, heading towards, bigger cities where they think they might catch up with everyone else. Camlin, I think, is like, you go here, you get to Camlin. Camlin's a straight shot to Tar Valon. Surely we can catch them in Camlin. But in the meantime, they're just hitting up, you guessed it, in-house innkeepers. Innkeeper after innkeeper. That's how they make their way. They're like, oh, could I juggle for a bowl of food or something? And they're like low-grade Gleeman. I hate this crap. It cheapens it. Like, there's no way 2 country idiots who can just juggle and kind of play the flute can do the same as earning a living like the bard does, who it's his profession. I think it cheapens the Gleeman, the whole thing. I hate it. Oh, I hate it. But eventually they get to Camlin, where there's a Queen Morgase. Sounds cool as crap. The town's described wonderfully. It's this really built up place. And he meets Loial the Ogier, who's like a good Trolloc. He's like a good Minotaur. He's like 8 feet tall. His people, the Ogiers, helped build Camlin. They helped build a lot of the Age of Legend. They live like 800 years or some mess. It's super cool lore. I love the way the guy talks. I love everything he talks about. And he sort of befriends Rand. It's very cool. He's the one who introduces the concept first of ta'veren. He tells Rand he's ta'veren. And this could have been used early on. ta'veren are people who because they constantly say the wheel weaves as the wheel will. Kind of this sort of, it's the wheel of time. It's weaving fate. Well, these ta'veren can, it will weave around them, right? They're these things in the stream that need to be weaved around. And it apparently Rand is one of these. And I'm like, well, that starts to make a lot of sense as to it affecting other people and how they're acting. But it could have been told sooner, right? It could have been explained a little better, and it would have fixed a lot of the issues that you end up with, like with Wolf Boy, or Matt saying weird stuff. Then, again, because I didn't learn my lesson randomly exploring a cursed city, why don't I just explore Camlin? Even though I'm by myself waiting for the wizard and my crew to show up, why don't I just explore this massive town? Right? Because, that'd be fun. That's what he does. That's what your boy Rand does. He explores town, and of course, because it's the CW, he meets a princess. He meets a princess and the queen. Because, you can't just fall in on where the princess lives and not get taken to the queen. Just like, who the crap is this guy? It's so stupid. So he gets away from this queen and all this, and runs back, and he's just like, it feels like he makes the way he talks about it, the way Rand is talking about it to the other people are like, oh, you won't believe what happened today at high school. It's so stupid. To me, it almost cheapens Queen Morghese. If she didn't have such a great name and the lore wasn't so strong, this crap cheapens it. I don't like it. It doesn't fit. The Moraine then shows up, and she finds Matt in a pitiful state because this thing's, half killing him. Which, again, because he's ta'veren or something to this effect, any normal person who had this dagger this long would have been completely consumed by it. Pure evil. But because he's so strong with this ta'veren, it's like eating him and he's like eating it at the same time. There's this weird thing that happens. But he doesn't die. But she can't remove it from him. The best she can do is like sever the worst of it, right? I'm going to stop the bleeding. I'm going to sort of secure this. But you're now no longer getting the life sucked out of you, Matt. So Matt starts to come sort of back. He's still very thin, gaunt. But he starts coming out of it, right? But he has to keep the dagger on him because no one else can touch this evil thing. Not even Moraine. Not even an Aes Sedai. She's very nervous. She's very scared of it. And the idea that there's like bigger evil than even the wizards are scared of works really great in this book. Makes the lore tremendous. And that's sort of what I have a problem with, right? Because some of the elements he has, he could have got with just some simple shuffling, right? He clearly wants Egwene and Nynaeve to be Aes Sedai, to be powerful Aes Sedai. But having them come from town just makes it awkward, right? Now, you could have had them leave that town when they were very young. So they're Two River folk. But they went to Tar Valon when they're super young. And they're coming back with Moraine. If he'd have done, they come back with Moraine, then the three boys can be like starstruck by these beautiful ladies. And he could then have the I'm awkward around girls bit in the story. I think that would have flowed much better. You could have some distrust, but you could get over it sooner. Just get over it sooner, because that crap's annoying. And I feel like it would have just knitted together better as a story. We could just have them as apprentices, so the ladies can still get in trouble, because they're not full-fledged yet. It would line up so much better. And I wouldn't have to waste, inches of the book explaining to Nynaeve, explaining to Egwene, all these other things, That, and I could have had the wisdom be a country thing and left it in the Two Rivers. You just have an old wisdom there, and you get that medicine woman thing across. It would have worked much better. But now we're getting to the end of the book, honestly, and we're getting to like the end, right? And I think he realizes, I need to finish this story. That's nice and cool. I gotta finish a story actually to deliver a book to my publisher or whatever. So this crap starts getting rushed. We are introduced to things like the Green Man, a Waygate, the Dark One's prison, all in a half a page. Half a page, bro. Is it not? Half a page is all that. I mean, I'm wasting time on the road juggling. I'm wasting time on the CW when I could have been talking about this lore. It's very aggravating. But it's still interesting enough. I finished the book. So what the waypoints are like portals into weird dimensions made in the time of Legends, where you can just walk a path and go from like where you are to Paris in like 25 minutes, right? Just walking distance. So they're really good for traveling. Hold on. Sorry about that. I had to cut away for a second. So, where was I? Waypoints. Yes. The waypoints are great. They're more. They're like the bridge for what was it, White Bridge, whatever that bridge town was called, Bridgerton. They're part of the artifacts left over from the Age of Legend. I really wish I could get a book just on the Age of Legend. I love that crap. So the waypoints, they let you travel like this great distance very quickly, like hundreds of miles in like 10 minutes if you know the way, right? That's what they call them, the ways. And the Ogier knows the ways through because he's like 95 or whatever. Kind of convenient, but we let it go. Now they get in there and they're in ruins. It's very dark. You just see these strips of land, and there's ruin and there's desolation, which was unexpected even for the Aes Sedai. And there's this tinge of danger. Now, anytime Robert Jordan gives you some sort of like a danger, he really does a great job of selling it. Right? That's all. That's great. I love that. So they get through this waypoint because they're all in a rush now, where they weren't in a rush before. Before it's like, let's just hang out with this fat innkeeper, but they're in a rush now because they're saying these dreams mean that the Dark One's prison's weakened and they got to go do the fight now, right? So they get there. There's some to do, right? I mean, it's a little convoluted. Yeah, it's complicated. They have to find the Green Man. It's complicated, but it shouldn't have been this complicated. This should have been given the time that other elements had been given. It just wasn't. But, it is what it is. In any case, they find, essentially that's how it ends. They find the Dark One. Rand battles him because Rand is like, has powers. And he beats him. But then it turns out like he could be the dragon reborn, right? He's a man who can channel. But he didn't want to go crazy and kill his friends and Egwene. So, he's like, I'm going to go off on my own. I'm going to be a solo. And that's how the book ends. It's kind of abrupt. And it leaves you, sort of, leaves me perplexed, right? Because I like it. I love the lore, and then I hate the story. I've never had this situation. I've had a lot of books, well-written garbage, and then I've had good ideas that were turned to trash. But I've never had someone show me a ability in one area of writing and not the other. That's strange. They're usually very consistent. I'm going to be this consistent garbage or this consistent greatness. But to be so great in the lore and yet so bad in the story. It's really weird. But I did finish it. But you can skip it if you've never read any Wheel of Time, right? So if it's like your first fantasy book, maybe just, you can get head over heels in it. But if it's your first, go Lord of the Rings. If it's not your first, read Lord of the Rings. If you're kind of bored, reread Lord of the Rings. But if you just gotta, I wanted to get into it. I had heard about it for years. I wanted to get into it because of the TV show. I'm like, I gotta read this book before the TV show comes out. And it was, the show's all right. This is goofy. If you're coming from if you're coming from a fan of the show to the books, it's gonna be. You know what? You might actually like it because the weird story elements you'll just brush off and use what you know from the show and just absorb all the lore, right? I think that's the way to do it. All right. Well, this one went on probably way too long. I blabbed way too long. But I got to remember to tell y'all to go buy my books. There's links somewhere. I'll hopefully put it at the bottom of this one. Because, that's how I get loot. Alright. See you next time.